Imagine sitting across from someone who is smiling, nodding, and saying all the right things, yet something feels off. You can't explain it, but your instincts tell you there's more happening beneath the surface. That feeling isn't magic. It's biology. Former FBI counterintelligence agent Joe Navarro spent decades interrogating spies, criminals, and suspects whose survival depended on deception. What he learned is simple but powerful. Words can lie, but the body almost never does. In this video, we break down the complete book, what everybody is saying, and learn how to read people by understanding the silent language their bodies speak every second. The book opens with a real FBI case that perfectly illustrates the power of nonverbal behavior. A murder suspect answers questions calmly and convincingly. His words are consistent, his tone steady. But when the investigator casually mentions the real murder weapon, information never released to the public, the suspect's eyelids slam shut for a brief moment. That unconscious reaction exposes knowledge only the killer could have. From that instant, the case pivots, leading eventually to a confession. This story establishes the book's core premise. Nonverbal behavior reveals thoughts, emotions, and intentions people try to hide. Joe Navarro's expertise comes from 25 years in the FBI, where mistakes could cost lives. The foreword also issues an important warning. Reading body language is powerful, but must be done carefully. Especially when it comes to deception, overconfidence can lead to dangerous errors. This book is not about guessing. It's about disciplined observation rooted in science and experience. Chapter 1. Mastering the Secrets of Nonverbal Communication. Joe Navarro begins this chapter by explaining that his fascination with nonverbal communication was never academic at first. It was a survival skill. As a young Cuban immigrant in the United States who could not yet speak English, he had to rely on observation to understand the world around him. Facial expressions, posture, eye behavior, and gestures became his primary tools for judging who was friendly, who was hostile, and who could be trusted. Long before he joined the FBI, he learned that the human body constantly broadcasts information, even when words are absent or misleading. Navarro defines nonverbal communication as every form of information transmission that does not rely on spoken language. This includes facial expressions, body movements, gestures, posture, physical distance, touch, clothing, grooming, and even the tone and cadence of a person's voice. Research consistently shows that nonverbal cues make up the majority of human communication. Because many of these behaviors occur subconsciously, they are often more honest than spoken words, which are shaped by intention, strategy, and self-preservation. Throughout his FBI career, Navarro repeatedly witnessed situations where words said one thing while the body revealed another. A suspect verbally denying involvement while subtly gesturing toward the crime scene. A witness confidently narrating events while showing stress reactions at specific details. These contradictions were not coincidences. They were the result of the brain leaking information through the body. To help readers become better observers, Navarro introduces 10 core principles for decoding nonverbal behavior. The first is learning to truly observe. Most people look, but they do not actively see. Effective observation requires focus, patience, and awareness of small details that others overlook. This skill, often referred to as situational awareness, allows a person to detect changes in behavior that signal emotional or cognitive shifts. The second principle emphasizes context. A behavior only has meaning when understood within the situation in which it occurs. Nervousness during a job interview is normal. Nervousness that suddenly spikes when a specific question is asked is meaningful. Without context, nonverbal cues can easily be misinterpreted. Navarro also distinguishes between universal and idiosyncratic behaviors. Universal behaviors are shared across cultures and rooted in biology, such as lip compression during stress or discomfort. Idiosyncratic behaviors are unique to individuals and require establishing a baseline of normal behavior before deviations can be identified. Another critical concept is clustering. Single gestures are unreliable. Multiple behaviors occurring together or in sequence paint a clearer picture. Finally, Navarro stresses discretion. Observation should be subtle and respectful. The goal is understanding, not intimidation or manipulation. By the end of this chapter, the reader understands that reading people is not about tricks, but about disciplined, ethical observation. Chapter 2. Living Our Limbic Legacy. In this chapter, Navarro explains that to understand body language, one must first understand the brain. The human brain operates as a triune system consisting of three parts: the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, and the neocortex. While all three influence behavior, the limbic system is the primary driver of nonverbal communication. The limbic brain is responsible for emotion, survival, and instinctive reactions. It responds instantly to environmental stimuli without conscious thought. Because of this, its signals are genuine and difficult to suppress. When people experience fear, comfort, anxiety, or excitement, the limbic system expresses those states through the body. In contrast, the neocortex, the thinking brain, governs speech, logic, and deliberate action. This is the part of the brain capable of deception. A person can consciously choose words that mislead, but the limbic system often betrays true feelings through involuntary reactions. Navarro introduces the three fundamental limbic responses that shape nonverbal behavior: freeze, flight, and fight. Freeze is the first response to perceived danger. It manifests as stillness, reduced movement, shallow breathing, or rigid posture. This reaction evolved to reduce detection by predators and still appears today during stress, questioning, or confrontation. If freezing does not resolve the threat, the limbic brain activates the flight response. In modern settings, this rarely involves running away. Instead, it appears as leaning away, turning the feet toward an exit, creating barriers with objects, or engaging in blocking behaviors such as rubbing the eyes or placing hands in front of the face. The final response is fight. While physical aggression is socially discouraged, modern fight responses include verbal aggression, posturing, invading personal space, and dominance displays. Understanding these reactions allows observers to identify emotional states and potential intentions long before actions occur. Chapter 3. Getting a Leg Up. Nonverbals of the Feet and Legs. Navarro refers to the feet and legs as the most honest parts of the body. Unlike facial expressions, which people consciously manage, the lower body is often ignored and left unfiltered. As a result, feet frequently reveal true emotions and intentions. When people feel comfortable and happy, their feet tend to point toward what they like. They may bounce, shift freely, or relax into open positions. When discomfort arises, feet often freeze, withdraw, or angle toward an exit. Crossing the legs away from another person frequently signals disengagement or unease. In interviews and interrogations, Navarro observed that sudden changes in foot behavior often preceded verbal or facial signs of stress. Feet may suddenly lock into place, hook around chair legs, or pull backward when sensitive topics arise. These reactions occur because the limbic brain is preparing for freeze or flight. Feet also reveal intent. Directional cues, such as feet pointing toward a door, often indicate a desire to leave. Even in casual conversations, observing foot orientation can reveal where a person's interest truly lies. Navarro emphasizes that once you learn to watch the lower body, deception becomes harder to maintain. Chapter 4. Torso Tips. Nonverbals of the torso, hips, chest, and shoulders. The torso houses vital organs, making it highly sensitive to perceived threats. Because of this, the limbic brain reacts strongly in this region. When people feel safe and confident, they expose their torso openly. When they feel threatened or uncomfortable, they instinctively protect it. One common protective behavior is turning the torso away from an individual or situation. Another is creating barriers using arms, objects, or posture. Navarro describes the turtle effect, where shoulders rise toward the ears and the head retracts slightly. This behavior signals insecurity, stress, or a sudden loss of confidence. Confidence and dominance, on the other hand, are displayed through expanded posture. The chest may puff out, shoulders roll back, and the body occupies more space. Leaning forward generally signals engagement and interest, while leaning away indicates discomfort or disagreement. These torso behaviors are deeply rooted in survival instincts and occur automatically. By observing how people orient and protect their torso, one can gain valuable insight into their emotional state and level of comfort in any interaction. Chapter 5. Knowledge Within Reach. Nonverbals of the Arms. Joe Navarro explains that the arms play a crucial role in nonverbal communication because they act as both bridges and barriers. When people feel comfortable, confident, and open, their arms tend to remain relaxed and uncrossed, moving freely to support communication. When discomfort, disagreement, or insecurity arises, the arms instinctively move into protective positions. One of the most commonly misunderstood behaviors is arm crossing. Navarro cautions against simplistic interpretations. Crossed arms do not automatically signal defiance or hostility. Instead, they often indicate self-soothing or self-protection, especially when paired with other stress indicators such as tightened lips, rigid posture, or withdrawn feet. Context and clustering remain essential. People under stress may also grip their own arms, hold on to objects tightly, or press their elbows firmly against their torso. These behaviors reduce vulnerability and help the brain manage discomfort. In interviews and negotiations, Navarro often observed that as stress increased, arm movement decreased, signaling psychological withdrawal. Conversely, confident individuals use expansive arm movements and allow their arms to remain visible. Open arm positions invite trust and signal that the person feels safe. Navarro emphasizes that observing changes in arm behavior, rather than the position itself, provides the most valuable insight into emotional shifts. Chapter 6. Getting a Grip. Nonverbals of the Hands and Fingers. Hands are among the most expressive parts of the human body and frequently reveal emotional states before words do. Navarro notes that confident people tend to display their hands openly, with relaxed fingers and natural gestures. Visibility of the palms is often associated with honesty and comfort. Under stress, however, hands change dramatically. People may hide them, clench their fists, interlace fingers tightly, or fidget excessively. These behaviors are driven by the limbic system as attempts to self-regulate anxiety. Navarro introduces the concept of pacifying behaviors, unconscious actions that soothe the brain during stress. These include rubbing the hands together, touching the neck or face, stroking the arms, or manipulating objects. An increase in pacifying behaviors often signals that a person is experiencing discomfort, pressure, or emotional conflict. Importantly, these actions do not indicate deception on their own. They indicate stress. Observers must determine what triggered the stress by paying attention to timing, context, and verbal content. Chapter 7. The Mind's Canvas. Nonverbals of the Face. The face is the most observed yet most misunderstood region of the body. Navarro explains that while facial expressions communicate emotion quickly, they're also the easiest to consciously manipulate. This makes context and timing critical. A genuine smile, for example, engages not only the mouth but also the muscles around the eyes. Forced smiles appear asymmetrical, fade quickly, and lack eye involvement. Eyebrow raises often signal recognition, interest, or surprise, while furrowed brows indicate concern or cognitive strain. Navarro highlights lip compression as one of the most reliable indicators of distress or disagreement. When lips press together tightly or disappear entirely, it often signals that a person is troubled by something they're hearing or thinking. Eye behaviors are equally revealing. Eye blocking, closing the eyes briefly, rubbing them, or shielding them, often occurs when a person dislikes or disbelieves something. Jaw tightening, flared nostrils, and facial asymmetry further indicate stress. Facial cues should always be interpreted in clusters and in relation to baseline behavior to avoid false conclusions. Chapter 8. Detecting Deception. Proceed with caution. In one of the book's most important chapters, Navarro dismantles the myth that body language can reliably expose lies through single behaviors. There is no universal tell for deception. Instead, Navarro advises shifting focus away from lying and toward discomfort. When people are asked certain questions, their bodies may react with stress responses such as freezing, distancing, or pacifying behaviors. These reactions do not prove deception, but they identify topics that require further exploration. Words are governed by the neocortex and can be manipulated easily. The body, controlled largely by the limbic system, responds emotionally to perceived threats. Skilled observers watch for discrepancies between calm words and stress bodies. Navarro emphasizes ethical responsibility. Accusing someone of lying based solely on nonverbal cues is dangerous and often wrong. Nonverbal behavior should guide inquiry, not judgment. Chapter 9. Some final thoughts. In the final chapter, Navarro reflects on the broader purpose of learning nonverbal communication. This knowledge is not meant to create suspicion or manipulation, but awareness and understanding. By learning to observe carefully, establish baselines, interpret context, and recognize behavioral clusters, individuals can improve relationships, enhance personal safety, and make better decisions. Navarro stresses humility and practice. Nonverbal intelligence is a skill developed over time, not a shortcut to mind reading. When used ethically, it fosters empathy, clarity, and deeper human connection. Every second, people reveal their inner world without speaking. By learning to observe carefully, interpret context, and recognize patterns, you gain access to information most people miss. Words can deceive. The body rarely does. Once you learn to listen, you'll never see people the same way again.